Then we conclude this conference with this summit with the IAF part. Then this is people linked with this initiative. Then all of these three gentlemen are part of the IAF, and I mean not as a consignatory but as active members of this initiative. First of all, Fabio. Actually, for those you don't know, just to put in the historical records, is that in his event, an ASA back in 2022, we had a meeting with Mohamed, with Glenn, with Fabio, with Felipe, and do we miss any? No. And then we discussed how we can work together. And then this initiative, this idea in September 2022 was materialized to form IAF 8 December of 2022. And Fabio is one really of the supporters of this. And I need to thank him for his active role on this aspect. Mohamed now will not be speaking as his own company, as being the board member of ASA, then the Aviation Service Association, and Michael that it's running the AIRE, then it's the president and CEO. Then we do initiatives, then our initiative is to have this declaration. We are talking about new initiatives will come out next year. Then as the theme of today's event is about the next steps, then I will move and ask my good friends and fellows in IAF. A year ago we signed this landmark declaration. Abdulwahab Tafaha said that this should be translated into action. A year later, are you more optimistic than last year? Do you believe we getting there? We already are the new members. Then what is your opinion and what we should do? Then Fabio, do you want to start?
Okay, well thanks. I think first and foremost I want to return to you the nice words, because without you, I mean you are the oil of the cocktail, right?
Absolutely, the inspiration.
Without you it wouldn't happen. And as a matter of fact, it's funny that it was one of our events in Istanbul. No, it was in
Athens.
When you had this idea of getting a number of different industries heads together around very good fish, I remember.
Yes.
One of the best I ever had, by the way. And I thought this is long overdue. But not only long overdue, but you came up with your empathy and your skills of trying to convince people who were not all, if you remember, all fully convinced. So historically, it's an amazing accomplishment. At the same time, you would think, why? Wasn't that done before? And the answer to that is no, not really. So you put it together, and really I commend you for this.
Thank you.
With respect to how it is going to go, I think you already proved that your action brought some ideas to a number of member states, and without the member states we won't achieve anything. So ICAO is the right vehicle. You said that you had the support of 12 member states of ICAO. That's amazing. I think one aspect that you and I discussed that is still a little bit missing in this whole journey is to have the ICAO of this world, the manufacturers, because without the manufacturers, if you think about this, you always think about airlines, but in the end, the manufacturers are making the whole thing what it is, right? Without them,
the real bird.
Exactly, the metal.
The metal, yeah.
You know? Without them,
or composite, to be correct.
Or the composite. We're missing a leg, so it's a tripod with only 2 legs, or whatever. And I'm sure they have no reason not to join. On the contrary, I'm sure that if we all get together and try and convince them to join, I see no reason why they shouldn't. And with that, and especially with the fact that you also have now above and below the wings, on top of the airlines and what have you, and the airports and what have you, I think that we can say that we have a complete representation of what aviation really means. And I'm really proud to be the signatory of this.
Twice.
But today of ACA, of this initiative, because ACA is representing, as you now know, the airline caterers. It's not something that you automatically think of, and it shows the diversity of aviation. Just in a nutshell, catering is an industry worth $25 billion a year. It's providing 2.2 billion meals every year. It provides 2.2 billion meals every year. It employs 250,000 people around the world. It is 24/7, of course, like aviation. And like aviation, our major challenges are safety, security, even more so now today because we've been imposed just a few days ago by the European Commission to have everything that goes in the plane secured, screened, scanned, 100%. That's brand new. Standards, like for our peers of ground handling, of which we are a part of, standards are lacking. To a certain extent it can be a good thing, to many extents it can be a bad thing because airlines then will say, I want this, I want that, and then you're like, but it's difficult to please everyone with different expectations, with different requirements. And then waste. Waste is becoming one of the major topics for us. What do we do with the cabin waste? And international cabin waste is a regulation in Europe and in all the countries in the world, and they treat everything that comes out of the airplane as being category 1 waste that has to be landfilled or burned, which makes our job of recycling almost impossible. So you cannot recycle what you've not used, you have to bury it. And a lot of people who are trying to attack aviation will see this as a means to say, look, aviation is a total waste. Look, we could have fed people with that, and instead we have to bury it in the ground or to burn it. And so we are trying to really work on these forefronts, in particular with the waste. And that's what makes it actually quite a challenging journey, but at the same time, it's interesting.
So why they cannot be? Why have to be?
Because of the fear of
for hygiene and poisoning.
No, listen, foot and mouth disease was supposedly brought twice by aviation, and we have studies that prove that it was not the case. But it's in people's angst and fears that aviation is a vehicle.
When you put things in the fridge and frozen, and then you defroze it, and then again. That's the.
But the food, surely the food cannot be used again for human consumption.
Yeah.
But the issue is, in many places now in Europe, all the households are recycling their organic matter.
Yeah.
And that organic matter is then turned into methane or to other gases through a process, and that creates energy. So surely you're not burying food. So why shouldn't this food, this organic matter, be put in the many facilities there are in Europe to change the organic matter through enzymes and things into energy?
You should ask me. You should ask the European Commission.
Well, I will ask you.
Tomorrow.
So, this for me is absolute scandal, because I know, especially our own commissioner, Kostas, in transport and tourism, is very, very keen on sustainability. He's a very...
unfortunately, he doesn't have the upper hand on this.
Yeah.
It's DG Santé.
Okay. But maybe you can give me the contacts, and I will be addressing them tomorrow.
Well, that's the other value of this event. It's not just to do another event, but something will come out.
That for me is absolutely unbelievable. I cannot imagine such waste. That's really incredible.
Well, the good thing is, EU,
Positive.
flights coming within the
Yes.
EU can allow recycling. Everything
Ah,
coming
okay.
outside
So
of the EU.
intra-EU,
Intra-EU, so
you can
yes.
use the organic waste for recycling.
Correct.
So it's only the airlines coming from outside,
Which is a big chunk, but yes.
which is a big chunk. But again, the recycling process isn't something that's going to spread disease because it's broken down by enzymes and other things into methane gas usually. So I don't understand why. But anyway, I will say something on the EU when I come to talk. When you finish.
No, I think I'm done.
Okay,
Just to
question. I have a question. Why don't you use this food for animal food, to prepare animal food?
because it wouldn't change the chain of spread.
It's infected.
Infection, yeah. If the animal then gets foot and mouth disease, and that's precisely what the European Commission is afraid of. Foot and mouth disease with the cows, mad cows,
Yeah.
was supposedly, allegedly brought by the airline industry,
Alright.
which we disagree with, but that's another matter. So they're extremely afraid both of the human, but of the animal disease as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Then, as a conclusion, are you optimistic what we do here with the Aviation for All and the processes?
I wouldn't talk about optimistic or pessimistic. I would say that this is absolutely, as I said, long overdue, that we have to do it. And it's good that you're having more and more support from regional associations, from private companies, even from member states now,
Yeah.
Romania, right?
Well, I have already Greece and Romania as a sample, and
So
also there are other states that want to join.
And as I said one previous time at your place, it's very good, it's necessary to have the signatures, but at one point in time they will all look at you and say, hey, Kostas, what do we do now? And I think you already showed what you could do at the ICAO, but we will need to perhaps then make a more concrete move. And this is something that we'll need to discuss.
That's why also the media, a part of ATN, also Travel Daily News, among others. Mohamed, your point, your opinion. Again, using the heart of ASA. Well, it's...
Okay, I'm using the heart of the ASA. Well, as using the heart of the ASA, actually, it was Fabio who signed for the ASA.
Correct. Then I give you back the floor.
No, actually, I see it is quite a good thing for all of us, not only ground service providers, nor catering, but all people working in the aviation industry, whether airlines, authorities, IT people, new renovations, anything that is happening. Let us look at it from another point of view, that in any industry, they are taking the global of the industry itself. So let us be one global. Why should I say, no, I am an airline, you are a ground handler, you are an IT person, you are a air transport, you are I don't know what. No, it's at the very end, whom are we serving? We're serving one person, the passenger, at the very end. So let us look for the benefit of the passenger and for our benefit as well. That's
Just to add something, because I'm in this business in front line 20 years. Then I remember it started with my first IARA AGM back in 2007 that was talking about the environment. Then there was a pressure on airlines doing things about the environment, then all these things with our tag and so on. Then it was a little bit slowed down and relaxed, not talking about the environment at all in the aviation field. Then Greta came back, let's say, talking about the environment around 2018, 17, if I'm not mistaken. Then again, we were a target. And well, first we didn't learn our lesson from our first wave of let's say, complain about our industry. Then Greta came, just to tell you, for those you don't know, you remember we were there in IAF on the day talking about the environment, because there was a march in Montreal with Greta. ICAO at the time leaders decided to close ICAO that day.
I remember, yeah.
In order not to have any riots against ICAO.
Yeah.
Thank God, Greta, I don't know if she's doing things for herself or it's follow some other instruction from some others. Well, it's related, it's provocative anyway, you know, you see other activities he's doing. Then it was a march of 500,000, 1 million. Never, I realized we were talking about the environment, thank God for us, but I mean, we're lucky. Otherwise we'll say, okay, if you close the day you talk about the environment because you're afraid, then it's like you doing something wrong, and it's not the case. Sorry, it's not the case. Then COVID came, everyone forgot about, you know, about the environment. You remember everything was sealed in plastic. Well, if you say what happened during this year of COVID was the plastic rule, the game. No, everyone wanted to be in plastic to be safe. Then after that, everyone jumped to a plane and have holidays. They forgot about the environment. They forgot about how bad we are as an industry in theory, because we are not. Then we are in a period of, let's say, calmness. But environment will come back. And need this, in this case, to be proactive about the future. Salvatore, one of the 3 strategic goals, said about the environment. Then we do a lot, we do more than any other industry have done. In our physical meeting we had last year, I think you were there in Riyadh. You were there in Riyadh?
Yes.
Yeah, in Riyadh, Salvatore said, we have achieved a lot, but we don't show to the people. We don't need to do other things. We have to show what we have already achieved. Engines, airframes. If you don't know, this Friday, Athens Airport become carbon neutral. Total. It's an achievement 2025 compared to other airports, other institutions will be much later. Then there is things happening, and we don't sell ourselves in a correct way. Then environment is part of what we talk, but we have to be prepared for the next time that will be targeted, and we have to be ready for it. Not to be. This is what is aviation for all declaration, to be proactive about the future. Michael, sorry about my parenthesis, but I think it's sometimes we have to say things.
Well, it's 1 year since AIRE has joined.
Correct.
IAF. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think a lot of progress has been made in this 1 year. It's a very good start. And you know, I've been working all my life in the airline business, but in the last 3 years I've switched from, after the pandemic, I had to go to Brussels, and now working in the regulatory business with the regulations in front of the Commission, the Parliament. We're part of the board of EASO, part of the board of ECAC, and other main regulatory authorities. But the one thing that I think all of our associations find very difficult is that, especially in Europe, is that we don't have such a good, let's say, participation in affairs of ICAO. And the one thing that I'm really proud of, and many congratulations, Kostas, because I think this is something that people really need to appreciate. I mean, to have Salvatore to make a dedicated video today for us is a huge achievement. To have this paper in ICAO is a huge achievement. And I can say from our association, we could never have done so. We've done many things, but this is something that would be outside of the scope. So, and that is very important for all of our associations, because however small the association, if we're together, ICAO is very important. And I tell you why it's becoming more important. Because from the European perspective, you know that there's a big contrast between the EU and ICAO. And I give you a couple of examples. Sustainable aviation fuel. Now, ICAO have made a definition of sustainable aviation fuel, which is key for our sustainability, for our environmental projects for the whole year. But we are not allowed to use ICAO produce sustainable aviation fuel in Europe because it's not certificated. And EU, under the RED regulation, has a different definition of SAF. SAF cannot be produced from crops. So we had earlier in the day the question said, well, why can't we use SAF coming from Africa? And let me say, one of the potential biggest SAF producers could be Egypt, because SAF can be produced from cotton seeds. And it's a very strategic crop, cotton seeds. Now, we cannot, and Turkey has sunflower seeds. We have Turkish Airlines, remember. Now, we as European airlines cannot use that SAF because it's not certificated because it's not allowed to be produced from a crop. This is so you have an EU definition, which is up here. You have an ICAO definition. And then you have, all of a sudden, changes in the American presidency, which is saying, no, we're going to pump as much oil as we possibly can, throw the Paris Agreement out. So America actually is now doing the opposite. It's going further and further away from a sustainable situation. So from our point of view, this issue of the relationship between ICAO and the EU Commission has to be solved a lot better. You know, the EU Commission in 2027 will be looking at CORSIA, which is the global ETS standard, and saying, is CORSIA good enough, or should we expand our own ETS into CORSIA territory? And this will be fatal because, first of all, everybody forgets that ETS took years and years and years to get established. This is airlines have to pay for the carbon certificates, yeah? And it took several years because the price was so abysmal that nobody took it seriously. And then all of a sudden the price has come up, and now it's a very major problem. So if we can't resolve these problems between ICAO and the EU, we're always going to have a fundamental difference. Now, IAF in 1 year has done things which we honestly never expected, and I think that's a great thing. And I think your positioning with ICAO and this bridge between Europe and ICAO is a very, very important thing that we ourselves as associations, however big or small, we cannot do that. And that's where you have, let's say, you have a unique positioning, which I think you should really push and exploit. And you know, congratulations. I think it's a huge achievement, and hopefully many years to come. Yeah.
Well, just to clarify,
yeah.
IAF is an initiative. Then it does not have yet a legal status. Then we work together, different organizations that include ASA, Hermes, and all of us that serve, as I said when I'm presenting you co-signatories, and now it includes also IAPA that become in this assembly also an observer status. Therefore, IAF, thanks tremendous support of the president of ICAO, Salvatore really believes in what we do. That declaration, it was included in the documentation. Then, for the first time, IAF, you know, Fabio knows very well the story because Fabio was the one who managed that ASA become an observer status in ICAO a couple of years ago. Then what happened is that those are not linked officially with ICAO. They consider as aliens, then they don't recognize them. Then IAF now is already visible as a declaration. Then we will need to work more formal way in the future, how we're going to work together. But I mean, already it's talked about what we have done, and the fact that we have, as we discussed, 12 states, not only from Europe. I mean, it was from Africa, from Europe. Thanks also Fabio from Africa. That helps a lot. Asia, South America. Then we were spread all over. Then that was the beauty. That it was not. I mean, it was not sent. The center was not in part of the world, but all over the world. That's the beauty. Fabio, you have to leave because you have to catch a flight. Then, do you want to share one last thought before you leave?
Sure, but first of all, it's always good to be here. Kostas, it feels like going to see friends and almost family. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't try the gin, but I promise next time I will. It's a sort of a dry December for me. I'm trying to prepare for the
in December, you're going to put in your calendar next year.
And no, other than this, congratulations and thanks for the invitation as ever.
Thank you. Then
Thank you.
Thanks, Fabio. Safe trip.
Thank you.
We will be in touch anyway.
So how does it work?
Yeah, you go up.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
I'll be with him.
No, you stay.
No.
What are you going to do 6 hours in the airport? You will be commit suicide.
No, I'll meet
Thanks, pleasure.
Manos over there.
Later.
Okay.
Then, thank you, Fabio. Safe trip. Then, someone said today about the roadmap. We have a clear roadmap. Then what do you believe should be the roadmap, apart, of course, that we have already this declaration, this update list of companies? What do you believe should be the next steps, in your opinion, regarding the declaration and the initiatives of IAF?
That we start advertising about it, we start talking about it to different, I would say, associations, different authorities. I think authorities is much,
Yes.
very, very important, that they have to understand we are just not talking about haphazardly like this, but we are in real action. I think this is the best roadmap.
ECAC, where all of the national enforcement bodies is, I think, a key step, because if we have Romania, if we have 1 or 2 other authorities, we have a huge opportunity with ECAC. And ECAC, remember, also includes Norway, other periphery authorities, Moldova, includes a number of other authorities. So I fully agree. Has to be publicized. A lot of people don't know, if you mention it, who is. But on the other hand, what you've achieved this year with ICAO has to now, we've got has to be translated more into an action plan. So from the strategic plan, we now have to drill down a bit. So, okay, point number 1, aviation is for whatever it is. We have to. What are we going to have as actions to let's say promote that? The training. Well, I think we've discussed today a lot of things. We had MBA course, all of these things, and it needs to be publicized. So we started high level. We've had really unbelievable success in the first year, and now we have to, let's say, go down a little bit, stage further into more projects. I mean, one thing that I think is absolutely incredible is that, CORSIA, this world project for carbon offset, the airlines today don't, in Europe, they, instead of paying the member states for their carbon certificates, they'll be paying CORSIA. And CORSIA, so that means instead of the airlines paying a government, they're paying a project. And that's a very big philosophical change. Now, the airlines, in theory, can choose what project. But do you know there is not one single CORSIA project in Europe? I mean, there is one in Brazil, there's a few in Brazil, there's one in Congo, there's in certain countries, but there are very, very few projects that we as airlines can invest. Remember that European airlines are spending more than €1 billion a year in buying carbon certificates, well over $1 billion in buying carbon certificates. So how can we now channel that into projects that are being invested in, let's say, closer to home situations? I think is a good theme, and the lack of a European project, of course, which is an issue for ICAO, because CORSIA is an ICAO program.
Correct.
So I think that is where CORSIA hasn't quite got all cylinders firing yet. Because the approval process for these projects is, as far as everybody's told me, is absolutely horrendous. The paperwork and everything, and the probability of success to get your project approved is not very high at the moment. So having more CORSIA projects to invest in will be very good for the environment. And of course, the big project for Commissioner Kostas has been the launch only a few weeks ago of the Sustainable Transport Investment Plan, which is called STIP. But STIP, whilst it is encouraging investment in refineries and other things, still has a long way to go, because by 2030, there is still not one single project that has reached final investment decision, FID, in Europe. So, and you know, these refineries can't be built overnight, they take many years to build. So there is a big danger, I think, that come 2030 there's going to be a big hole in meeting our objectives. And I think the Commission understand that, and that's why STIP has been launched to try and stimulate it a bit.
Let me add one thing. You talk about the European perspective, but however you have one of the biggest carriers in the world, that is Turkish. Then you have, let's say, also focus in Europe, but not only Europe. Then it's a global carrier.
Remember,
Exactly.
Europe for us is very important, not just to take the EU, but is to take countries that are neighbouring the EU, because they are the most affected by the European regulations. So, for example, this year there has been a ban on tankering of fuel. Now, Turkish Airlines that is flying to so many European destinations, they cannot tanker the fuel with SAF in it, because they have more SAF than Europe does. They cannot tanker the SAF into Europe, and because they have to, according to the regulations, they have to uplift 90% of their fuel from an EU airport. So there's all kinds of things that affect, and we're working in Albania, we're working in Turkey, all kinds of things that affect the neighbouring countries where the EU would very much like to, even if they're not in the EU, they would like to have the regulations as harmonised as possible. And Turkey in that sense, and Egypt is another very, very important strategic country that could be better, let's say, play a role in this. I believe that very firmly, and so it's something which, you know, when I'm now discussing tomorrow the issue of passenger rights, and you know, a lot of ideas for the current legislation of passenger rights have come from neighbouring countries, and that adds a lot of value. So, and if Africa can participate in that process as well, I think that's a lot of value, because you get all kinds of different perspectives here, and I think that's sometimes what's lacking. So we welcome very much the participation of the neighbouring states. I mean, we're not trying to be IATA, but we're trying to encompass Iceland, Norway, and all of the countries, particularly Balkan states that are not yet in the EU, to get their perspective, so that when they do come into the EU, or even if they don't come into the EU, their regulations are as good as possible. I'll give you one more example, then I'll stop. A lot of things is about delays and cancellations. Now, in Europe at the moment, there is a critical shortage of aircraft, and the critical shortage of aircraft is because a lot of aircraft of the new generation, which is burning a lot less fuel, is having engine problems, particularly with certain manufacturers. And so a lot of aircraft are being grounded. Now, in the EU, if we have a problem, especially at a weekend, we are not, and we go, for example, to Egypt or to Turkey, we cannot wet lease in an aircraft to alleviate the problem of the burden on the passengers, because it's not IOSA, because these carriers are IOSA carriers. These carriers are, let's say, EASA carriers, so full EASA standards, so compliant, but because they simply have not EU registration. And now this in EASA is something which we're trying to get simplified, is the ability to wet lease in aircraft, especially to alleviate delays and cancellations, is very, very important. And Turkey and Egypt are huge resources which today we cannot use, simply because the rules are the rules. And this is not sorry?
Sorry, there are safety reasons, is that correct?
No, there's no safety reasons whatsoever, because if these, I'm not talking about very small, I'm talking about the major airlines in Turkey and Egypt, are IOSA, okay, which is the highest safety standard.
It started the initiative IATA, then it's the global,
IATA, and it's audited and everything. So if you are an IOSA carrier, you are compliant and you are audited every so many years. You are compliant with the highest safety standards in the world. So it isn't a safety issue. It's just the EU wanting to,
protect?
Well,
No, it's not
must be
it's not
something.
protection. It's just that I can just tell you from an airline point of view, our lack of when there is enough aircraft in Europe, then it wouldn't make any difference. But for the last few years, and particularly with this engine problem for so many aircraft, there is a big lack of aircraft, and that also, by the way, is reflected for the passengers, because as a result of that lack of aircraft in Europe, the lease rates have gone
Up.
much higher. And of course, that's fuel and lease rates are the two really big costs for airlines. So when the lease rate goes up over 20% at least, that in the end has to be reflected in the fares of the passengers. And you can't keep adding the lease rate going up, the issue of the dollar exchange rate, the issue of sustainability. Now we will have the issue of passenger rights with the new regulation. How much is it going to cost? So all of this is adding cost to our industry, and in the end, that's going to mean more expensive. It's already more expensive. If you compare the average ticket price from 2019 to where we are today, today it's been a huge increase. So eventually that's going to affect the passenger traffic, and that's going to affect tourism. It's going to affect the GDP of countries, particularly countries like mine, Spain, Italy, Greece, which rely so heavily on tourism. There is a key word here which is missing, and is affordability. And affordability is a key success ingredient of the EU. And remember, one of the principal foundations of the EU is that movement, whether it's train or whether it's by air, is free movement. And this is a very precious principle that we have in the EU. But if you go and take an international train now, and I mean, it's extremely expensive. And what you don't want is that all of this travel, whether it's by air or whether it's by train, is going to be just for the privileged few, because then we're going outside of providing transport for everybody.
Vicky, you become also part of this co-signatory. You come from the circle that is part of your activities is aviation. Then traveling news is one of the biggest media of the last 30 years, 1999, 27. Well, I learned, for those of you who don't know, I learned about media thanks to Vicky and Thodoros. Then actually I went to my first AIRE event as a journalist, thanks to both these my good friends. But as you come, let's say, not from the heart of the aviation, but you cover part of them, in the heart is aviation, then how you see things, how you see this collaboration, how you see a little bit, let's say, as an outsider in a kind, not outsider, but you understand, not to be 100% of your time aviation.
Well, there is a paradox on here, because tourism is increasing. Fares are increasing, like you said, but people like and want to travel a lot. So tourism to our area, as you said, Spain, Italy, and Greece, increasing every year, and that's a very paradox.
Yeah, but the key thing to remember is that today people's travelling habits have changed compared to 20, 30 years ago, because today, why is passenger traffic increasing? Because people are taking long weekends, they're taking weekend breaks. So they're not just taking one big holiday for 2 weeks. Yeah. And so when you measure things like number of passengers, this year we will transport more than 1 billion passengers in Europe. Right? That's a huge
number.
With a safety record that is one of the best in the world. So 1 billion passengers, but those passengers are not traveling for a long time, they're traveling for much shorter time. But instead of one family traveling maybe once per year, maybe now they're going for short breaks, they're traveling 2 or 3 times per year. So this is the
and the very young people.
And young are traveling much more, But remember, in my time, when I was a student, we used to have a student rail card, I remember, where we could travel all over Europe.
That's something they try to bring back compared with that.
But today, if I want to go from my family's place in Rome to somewhere in Europe, It costs hundreds of euros with and if you're in a family of 5 or something, it's a fortune, absolute fortune. So this concept of I'm all for sustainability, I'm all for all of these initiatives, but it has to be done in an affordable way to preserve our industry in the future. So that's the thing. Let me say, I'd just like to say one more thing, which I think is very, very important. I have been in the regulatory now, pre the current parliament, with the old parliament.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a very, very big difference with the new parliament. Very big difference. We have
In the parliament or the committee for the aviation?
For aviation,
Okay.
because we have Apostolos Kostas as the commissioner for tourism and
Sustainable tourism.
sustainable tourism and travel, which is put together. And we have Elisa Rosenberg, who is also Greek, who is the chairman of the Transport Committee of the Parliament. So we now have, for the first time I think ever, 2 people of the same nationality in 2 different key parts of the regulatory system, the Commission and the Parliament. And this is a huge opportunity. For Greece to be flying that flag, I think is a wonderful thing. And I've noticed a big difference with the new commissioner, the new transport commissioner, in what they're doing, and also the time. They're not saying, well, we'll do this in 5 years. We'll do it. Saying, no, I want it done much shorter. So these 2 are doing a very proactive job in pushing things forwards. And this year, more than any other year with this change, I've got a sense that we're on a very good road. So I'm optimistic that with these 2 leaders we will be able to achieve a lot compared to
Time to time, Greece doing good
No,
things.
I think
Hopefully.
I think
No,
it's- I think we
the
should be very
feedback is
proud.
quite positive.
Yeah,
It's true. I mean, many. I had
should
a
be
chance to
very
meet
proud.
both of them over the last month, and they do try to, especially Apostolos is doing a great job over there. Then compared to the predecessors, not only
Yeah.
the previous one, but also the
Previous one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Then the thing is, it listens, then is actively participate. Well, we had a fantastic person, Henrik Holiday, that used to be the voice of the European Commission. Well, that he left the post, then having now the commissioner itself that is focusing on our sector, it's really important in the European perspective. But, Mohamed.
Yeah, actually I have 2 comments. Why are we strictly focusing on Europe?
Well, this is what I said earlier.
No,
that's why I said
because
about
I
Turkish.
represent-
Because-
No, I'm not talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in general.
No, me, I'm not. I never focus in any region. It's global.
It's a global. That's what I want to say. We have, for example, you have already contacted ACO.
Correct? It's part.
It's part.
Yes.
You've already, but please do ask the ACO people, Abdul Wahab, sorry, to get you in contact with the Arab Civil Aviation.
Wait. I know. ICAO, there is what I didn't say that in order to get on board 3 states from the Arab world in this supporting our declaration was thanks to ICAO. Then Manar and then it helped me tremendous over this direction. Then we are already direct in touch, and I was with him last month in Rabat.
That's great.
No, there is a fantastic relationship with ICAO, and they are supporting.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, with some state I approached them, and
Manar is.
and also Fadi helped with African states, and Manar was the one who convinced these states.
That's
Then
one of the states
Morocco and also UAE and Qatar to join. I didn't have a direct, let's say, discussion with them. It was thanks to ICAO. Then, there is already a link.
Okay, that's one point.
And and Latin America also. Then also spoke with the LACAC.
But in addition, we forgot one important player, which is the Far East.
China, Russia, India.
Then
players.
That's
Yeah, but
That's- we have
stepwise, my friend. Then
that's
only one
we have
year,
to
yeah.
put it into our
equation.
into the
Yeah. Second thing, I received a telephone call from a friend who is a traveler.
Okay.
And he likes travels a lot, maybe per month, maybe 2 or 3 times per month. And he told me, Mohamed, what's going on? I said, what happened? He said, Airbus now declared something happening. Is it a new way that airlines that have the 320s to increase their prices because there are less?
Yeah, no, it's not. It was a nightmare for the, I spoke with many people then probably, that in some companies overnight, they fixed the problem. There was no
Yeah. You or me or anybody.
Yeah, we know.
We
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
quite
exactly
well.
the point.
But
Yeah.
the people,
But
This is again to what we're taking. Communicate.
exactly. That's what I told him. No, it's not. If you look Egypt Air, what they have done. Look at Airline, what they have done. Look at Flynas, what have they done. Look at Aviation. Look at they have tried. As long as they have the means and they have the professional people in maintenance to fix the problem, they did it. And they did it
Overnight.
overnight. So, but mainly the people, that's what they are thinking.
Yes, that's the issue.
That's
That's
the
the issue.
problem.
Then this is, as I said earlier. Then also in the discussion, also with Fabio was present in Riyadh. We talked that we need to focus not on the 20% of the global population that is traveling, but the other 80%.
Exactly.
And in what I always say, I give the example of Greece. I'm not found to give Greek examples, or because I live here. But the thing is the following: Greece faced 2 severe economic crises in the last decade, and one also crisis with COVID. Then, if we survived, or our economy survived, was thanks to tourism. Then most of the tourism, and Andrea can confirm that because he's the one who knows, and Vicky and Thodoros, our tourists arrive mainly by air. Then, what I give as an example is many people working in islands, hotels, in transport, anything, and even have the boats in island and so on, restaurants, everything, they make revenue because there is the airline sector. And then without aviation, there is no business for them. Then, and it's not only Greece, many economies depend, Malta, Cyprus, other Iceland, then Maldives, then
Egypt.
Egypt. Yeah, what? How many go by? I don't believe anyone will go by road.
No.
There's no trade from outside, interconnect between Egypt and the other. And let me add one other thing. We often, we go often to Salzburg. And before COVID, there was a flight between Vienna and Salzburg, 30 minutes flight.
yeah,
Now it's 3-hour train. And they say that this industry is very sustainable, go by train. Well, somebody told me that the trains are produced by, electric, electric from the sun, whatever. I was last week in Salzburg. I was in 3 wagons across, the only passenger. I don't know how the hell they can be sustainable. This even if it be produced by solar, then use this solar for something else. This is not sustainable. I was the only on my way back. Then where is sustainability? In aviation, you're running an airline in the past, you know very well. You need to have this F load factor. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable.
Yeah, but
There is the
we
break
cannot-
even.
We cannot in Europe have SAF, which is costing more than 3
Exactly.
times the price of kerosene, because there is such a high demand, which is very good because it shows that airlines want to be sustainable. But the price of SAF is more than 3 times that of kerosene. And why? Because nobody is producing it in Europe in enough quantity. And of course, this is a classic supply demand situation. If we were able to use SAF coming from Egypt and Turkey, in particular Egypt and Turkey, of course, that would SAF produced through ICAO standards, which is still sustainable, then of course the price of SAF would go down and we would be using much more SAF. But today we can't have SAF because it doesn't exist. If you want to go and buy it, you go and try and buy some SAF. It's really, really difficult. And of course we suffer some big issues in Europe because SAF is only present now in less than 20 airports. And there are over 200 airports in Europe. So if you can only get it in very, very few airports, my airline, which is based in Mallorca, we don't have SAF in Mallorca, we have it in Barcelona. But we get invoiced SAF, which doesn't exist at that airport.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's bureaucracy.
Which is bureaucracy, and they're allowed to do it. So can you imagine that we're paying for SAF that doesn't actually exist? So this is a big issue about how this whole industry is let's say controlled by the petrochemical companies. So we have to be very careful there. But you know, the issue for me is how can we produce more SAF? And we need to have a little bit more of a flexible approach because okay, we don't want to turn land for crops in Europe, but why can't we have land, cotton seeds and sunflower seeds from Turkey coming in, because that's all sustainable. I mean, that's all sustainable stuff. And one thing which I think is also another, just to show you how over-regulation can be very dangerous. We have this new law in Europe as of 1st of January where we cannot use tankering. You know? So before, airlines would take fuel on and they would, over a 2-hour flight, an A320, you can take enough fuel to then come back without having to refuel at the regional airport. You know? Now today, if fuel is only available in very, very few airports in Europe, we could be tankering SAF to the outstation and bringing it back. So this regulation has actually caused today, for this 1 year, until SAF is available in more airports, it's causing an increase in fossil fuel burns, not a decrease. And so this is something that has to be, you know, it's not that the regulation is bad, it's that the timing of the regulation has not been in synchronization to the regulation on refuel, which is the one on sustainability. So those two, because they've been produced by two different directorates and things, have not, let's say, been synchronized, because tankering should only have been, anti-tankering should start when SAF is available in sufficient quantities and not before. So this is a good example of how regulation actually can make things worse and not. But it's not a bad regulation. We participated. We were very pro it to help, because tankering causes a higher fuel burn, but a little bit higher fuel burn. But when there's no SAF available, well.
And then you have to be paid to pay because you don't use SAF.
Then we have to pay because we don't use it. So.
Well, actually, what you just said makes me really very proud of one thing, that if any airport I go in the GCC,
yes,
I find somebody from ASE.
Very good.
Really, they are taken, like nowadays,
yes.
They are Saudi ground services. They took from me nearly 70 people. I train them, they take them.
Okay, that's good.
That's
That's
another.
to conclude, because we're arriving to arrive on time. And last word you want to share, Mohamed, and finally Michael.
I think that for the
Well,
first,
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to repeat.
No.
For the first year, I think getting so many people together, achieving what you've done, to be present in ICAO, to have Shakitano address us today, I think, honestly, Kostas, it's a huge achievement and we should recognise that. Of course, there's a lot of work to do. There's much to be done in, let's say, the first 5 years, but given the first year, let's be realistic. I mean, it is a tremendous achievement, and it's one that, honestly, when we joined, we never dreamt that you'd be able to do that in the first year. So well done. I just think it really deserves, firstly, an applause.
Thank you.
And secondly, keep the good work up. Let's get action plans. Let's get more people involved. Let's build on that first year, because let's not be complacent about it. And if in
Will
the
be a
next,
tough year. We have to work to be next year. Will be
Absolutely.
second year. We have achieved more than the previous
yeah,
year.
which is going to be a tough one to follow, I tell
Yeah.
you. So,
No worries.
Well done.
I'm used to that.
I'm
Thanks.
I'm very, very pleased and congratulations.
Mohamed, last word.
I cannot say something more than what you just said, but I'm really very impressed, and I'm really glad that I've joined
Yeah.
the whole, and thank you, Kostas, for the effort you have done, and the convincing people, and that's most important.
Democratic way, because
Yeah.
the other
No, when I'm saying convincing is
Democratic.
democratic. But actually, yes, it's a very good step, because as long as you are going forward and not stopping.
No, we never
She never
stop.
stops.
No, never stop. Let me, thanks, please give a round of applause for my good fellow members of the IAF. Then I will do the conclusion, then some basic outcomes. As Salvatore said, this one of the main initiative goals of ICAO for the next years is to serve everyone everywhere, and this is exactly what Aviation for All is all about. Then we have a clear roadmap. We achieved a lot in the first year. We are new members today, but it's not enough. As someone said, we support all other industries, and the thing is, as Fadi said, we need to find one country per every continent to be like the champion or the pilot in order to move forward. There is a lot of work to be done. Then we have to pass the message to everyone, and this is your, let's say, you are all ambassadors. Then you have the spin because you are ambassador of being working together, and pass the message to everyone with every means of with social media, press release, whatever, name it. Of course, digitalization very critical role to the this roadmap. And what we want to do is that we will be speaking united. We have differences, always will be a difference between this aviation ecosystem. However, we have to put aside this 10-20% of differences and work together in order to be able to move forward and to manage and make this important industry, because it's a huge contributor to many societies. You know. Another example that was after the volcanic eruption in 2010 in Eyjafjallajökull, thank you. In Iceland, is that farmers in Kenya are bankrupt because the flowers couldn't be delivered to Europe due of the no flights. Therefore, what is important it's to what we do. It's critical to our societies, and we have to pass that. We have to say to everyone, we are here to help, and we are willing to improve, and we have improved it over the years. Then, with this, we conclude our one-day event, and looking forward to see you next year, 8th of December, put in your calendars. And thank you for being here and supporting our initiative that is together. And thanks for your kind words for my person, and really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.